I wanted to talk about how to play artillerists in Heart of Khan, because I know I've been there. I know it's very difficult to play Barrage Artillerists in Heart of Khan because there's many things that if you try to tank like you used to, it ends up triggering these additional patterns that can be very detrimental for your party, for your raid group. And there are things you straight up cannot tank. So you have to be very calculative in the way you do your positioning. So I wanted to talk about this on stream and try to explain the way I did things. And so how to get Cruel Fighter on Barrage Artillerist and Heart of Khan from the perspective of someone who's been playing this raid on a weekly basis on like 6 characters for a year now. I will generally take Purify Rune on either turrets or for Barrage. If I do take Purify on summon turrets, I might take Bleed on for Barrage. Yeah, I've tried taking out the Bleed, but it does seem to have a dent on the damage outgoing. So probably keep Bleed if you can. I do get Cruel Fighter in all runs and MVP on all runs in this run. So start off with Awakening. You use Awakening here because you can get it back by the time that you hit the 55 line damage window. Oh, and that's unlucky. I mean, that was lack of attention from me. I should have spacebar to moved out of that. So I did one Barrage rotation and used Awakening there, I think. I try to keep up Adrenaline doing that, and then I run into the Spear after having laid a turret so that I can keep up my bleed damage. I try to look for an angle. I know that this is a good pattern for DPSing on Barrage Artillerists. I sit on its back. You can keep DPSing during the Sporpa spin mech, spacebarring out so that I can keep inside. And then you can lay your nukes if you know after the second time he does the Borpa spin, because you know where he's headed, so you can pre-plant them. Then use Sacred Charm at the right timing in order to cleanse your party, and then get back. I think I looked at the yellow telegraph range, and I just sit at the very outside of it. So when it comes to Barrage Artillerists, you need to be able to make very minimal movements so that you can focus on keep stacking up gauge. And then whenever you enter Barrage mode, you really want to be careful of your positioning. Oh, someone has double stacks there. Okay. Rip. And someone's dead too. Oh, Thyrane. I prefer Nana much more. And then watch him come down. I plant turrets. Good thing to try and maintain adrenaline as much as you can between cinematics. And yeah, this is the pattern we have to be wary of. If you try to sit there while he does the yellow telegraph thing that grabs you, you're kept dangling in the air, and that's something that's very difficult for Barrage Artillerists because you know that you have to sit for an extended period of time in order to dish out your Barrage rotation. So you have to be very mindful of where you sit. You do pattern recognition. You notice what pattern it is he's trying to do, and then you try to do your Barrage rotation by positioning yourself correctly, depending on which pattern he dishes out. Nice Borpa spin into the wall. Second time into the wall. I notice I have 4 lines remaining until it phases, so that's good enough time to at least use one of the 2 bigger skills, W or E. Then yeah, Purify Rune sometimes will not work. Try to keep using your Purify Rune skill. In this case, it is 4 Barrage, I think. And this setup is very nice because you can build back Adrenaline very easily using 4 Barrage and Ant Shell and summon turrets. I use Big Pack, so it's very easy to build back Adrenaline if I need to. Watch him drop, summon turrets into double nukes. He almost avoided it. I'm trying to build back up gauge, knowing that I don't have too much time. So I have to do my barrage rotation very quickly. I can sit in that because I'm kind of overgeared and I have the shields going on. I wait for after the telegraph is done to get out of my seat so I don't have to get paralyzed by it. Moving along with it, flamethrower is always a good skill to use in these cases. Because you can move along with him. I see another opening for Barrage because he gave us that additional pattern. So that was very nice because you know that you can build gauge during this pattern. And so best case scenario, you can use your Barrage rotation right before he phases here. So you can build your gauge here while attacking him on the center. So yeah, I'm ready to go back into Barrage mode as soon as the mech ends. I'm looking for a pattern. I see that he's doing the rainbow thing. And so I use my nukes and then I enter Barrage mode there. And then, unluckily enough, he decides to do the yellow swipe mech. And so I have to get out after using my W. So you have to juggle that. A lot of it is RNG. But try to minimize the cases where you cannot do a full barrage rotation. Oh, okay. This is a case where the Inanna was used improperly. So we didn't get the hidden Inanna at 55 lines. Still, we have Inanna on the ground, so safe DPS window. Sadly enough, we didn't get to use the make use of the 20% increased damage, but it's okay. And there I just tanked it because I knew that we still had a Nana. Trying to build back gauge. I'm looking at the pattern. And yeah, I know that this is another damage window. So I sit on his side. Pretty much tank everything here. And also be very careful when you use 4 Barrage there, because it pushes you backwards. So you might end up being propelled backwards into the yellow telegraph. Planting nuke so I can get rid of the bugs there. Always be on the move when you're doing this, because as a Barrage Artillerist you have a lack of movement speed and movement skills. So make sure you get yearning from your support. Move out. Be on the move always. So you don't get caught in those wormholes. When you're trying to do damage here, you won't get time to use both your W and E. So generally just try to use your W only. Or your E. Doesn't matter. Move out around 6-7 stacks. Go back in once you see that you've been cleansed. And Cruel Fighter tip: once the shield is off, he does take damage, and that counts towards your MVP. That's one tip to do goblin stuff in gate 1. I watch where he lands and I plant the nukes. I look for a window on which to sit. Luckily enough, he does a pattern where I don't have to move, so I have straight up damage window. And then board bus spin. I'm gonna follow him. Flamethrower, always great when you're following. Pre-planting gravity, and then I spacebar just in case I get paralyzed, knocked backwards. Move out, watch the puddles. I just sit there because I know I can tank it. Sadly enough, he does that mech, and I'll have to get out of here just in case. Yep. Get out of the grass. I didn't have spacebar or energy shield there, so sadly I had to get knocked. If I had spacebar, I would have just spacebarred towards him. 31%. Crow Fighter. It doesn't seem like a lot here, but like there are a lot of minute positioning details that make or break whether you can do damage on Barrage Artillerists in Akkan. I take Adrifin, Sacred Charm for my party, and Destro. And here I'm trying to build my Adrenaline stacks. In case I can maintain it through the cinematic. Oh, it went away. Sag. Sometimes it does work. Pre-planting nukes in his front because I know where he's headed. Did it hit? I think it did. You do have one barrage rotation window here, and generally supports do use their identity, so make sure you always abuse that initial window there before he phases into the tendies. And then surely during this you want to build gauge, so I'm almost full here. And I do notice that he's at 170 lines, so it's a good window to do a full barrage rotation, which is exactly what I do. I spacebar out of it. Oh, but I collide with another guy. And then you want to be always mindful of that 160 line phase. Don't waste your barrage on that window. He doesn't give you a lot of time there to do damage. I moved downwards because I noticed there was a lot of people on the top side. And for Barrage here is godlike when doing this play ball mech, when you're doing the counters. Because it's on such a short cooldown. You can, counter from that distance. You don't have to move much from the center. And yes, counters do add up towards your MVP. I think they do here. And the great part, so here is why 4 Barrage is God. See, I use it beforehand because I know there's a second tick to 4 Barrage. The side bullets trigger that counter there. And that's a very neat aspect of 4 Barrage. The 2-hit counter is super good. It allows you to use your counters beforehand and still get them. I look backwards because of the Medusa. That's a counter. And perfect, because he's been countered, I gain 30% extra damage on my W. Because he's in groggy state. Donut plus Shoryuken, so I move outside. Can always pre-plant nukes during that. And I'm sitting down. He does a pattern where he doesn't move, so that's perfect. That's an internal cooldown, but I do get my entire E damage done there, and then I plant my Q on him. And then here I know that he's gonna phase straight away after this, so my goal here is to build gauge as much as I can. Not enter barrage mode. I do get like 70% of my barrage bar filled up. And then I do the mech. Let's see. 90 into a 90 into an 80. 90. 180. 90. And then pre-plant turrets. And then by the time my nukes land, I have 6 stacks adrenaline. Because I used turret, nuke, 4 barrage, and shell. And by the time they landed, it was full. I try to get that 4 barrage in there for that gauge. An shell, not 4 barrage. And then stacking up gauge again. So on my mind here is that he's gonna give us the donut into the next slice soon enough. I do see the Yongmeng there, so I do sit down. I didn't save it. I won't be able to make use of this damage window too much. I'll just be able to get gauge here. But it's not like you gain a damage buff here. It's just that he's standing still. Unlike in Gate 1 hidden in Anna. So I have full gauge. I'll be able to make use of it after leaving this pattern. Go pick up the ball, plant it at 5 o'clock. I'm looking at left and right, fishing for those counters. I get poop. Go plant it. Going back. For barrage, counter. Oh, that was close. There was a green ghost spawning there. Looking left and right. Also looking for party members who might get CC'd from getting the plague. Getting full gauge from that. And then plant turret, nuke, 4 barrage into an shell. So that my nukes get that 6 stack adrenaline. And then good pattern. Deadly pizza. Go sit in that safe spot. Enter 4 barrage. There is a Yongmeng. So that's great. This is awakening angle. And yeah, and use awakening. Let's back off from cooldown. And he's sitting during this, so this is a great window to hit full procs of your awakening. Deadly frisbee because someone was standing too close to him. He got aggroed there. Counter. And then I sit immediately and do QW. And then E. And then there's another Yongmeng, so this is a very good bard. The Yongmeng timings aligned very well with my barrages. He's at 0. So now we proceed to do the mech. On Barrage Artillerists, you have destruction points on homing barrage and gravity explosion. And then you also have destruction points on your Q and E in barrage mode. I want to make use of those if you can. Counter. That's the beauty of 4 barrage. It's such an insane counter. Trying to get rid of those tentacles. I was trying to fit in some destruction points on my barrage, but I noticed a counter spawning at 6 o'clock, so I stood up. Yeah, that was enough to finish him off. Now let's see here. Gate 2. %26. No, I didn't take food. Maybe I forgot. Try to tank that initial hit so that he does that second strike down. That's a 270, so I'm trying to see where he's headed. And then I go around him. At 270 mark, I just sit down and do barrage mode. Counter. Nice. QWEQ. And then he's going to face soon. I'm trying to build gauge. Oh, someone got caught by that. Generally, people avoid it, but maybe that was a scuffed angle. Here I do get to build a bit of gauge here, so I do barrage mode here. There's a small damage window there before he enters DR. And now I'm trying to build back gauge for after this. I did manage to get a few ticks of W in there. Planting turrets. You want to save your nukes because they don't do this stagger here. So plant them afterwards like I did right now. And then I'm using Awakening here. Good timing to use Adrifin because generally supports have their full bar here while doing the stagger mech. I managed to get Barrage again. That's the +X. And I should have sat a bit more on the right side, preferably, just in case he phases. But I was able to get in a full barrage rotation here. Because if you sit, say, over here, and then he decides to phase while he was here, and he reappears here, right? You can just turn your head and keep doing damage over here. Because you do have a decent window of damage. He's still taking damage, like this. We planted Nana. I'm trying to get... I already have full gauge here. So I don't need to do much. Maybe just maintain adrenaline stacks. It does go off. But because of my setup, it's pretty easy to build it back up. So I'm waiting. Building back up adrenaline. Don't get silenced by that purple tether there. Plant nuke. Enter barrage mode. Don't use Adrifin because Adrifin... you want 2 Adrifins for gate 4 for attack on Titan phase. +X. I just tank it with energy field. He moves out of my my flamethrower. That's unfortunate. Messed up pizza. Stand in a safe spot. I'm trying to get gauge so I can get a final 4 barrage rotation in before he phases. There's a small damage window here too, so I pre-plant my E damage. And I do get full tick on E, pretty much. Move out. I don't have a pillar on my side yet. I can kind of chill. Just make sure when the pillar appears, don't be standing on the side on which the laser is coming out, because you might end up dying from that. Otherwise, yeah, always this side is safe. The left side of the left pillars and the right side of the right pillars, and then top and bottom of the top and bottom pillars are safe spots. If you're not 100% sure on how to navigate here, those are the safe spots. Try to build gauge, because I don't have it right now. And you can build gauge during the DR phase. I do manage to get my full barrage rotation before I have to get up to deal with the rotating pizza. I did use Sacred Charm to save my party mates. And I pre-plant nukes here, knowing that it's the slime pattern. So you will take damage. If possible, also plant things like turret, I guess. I fixate the aggro there, and then I move out of it. I know that he's gonna go move backwards into laser. Oh, but someone got caught, so he didn't do the second laser. If it's a neck slice moment, it's always a good damage window. I move out of it after casting my entire E, because I was standing in the direction of the laser. That's the earthquake pattern, moving out. You can also spacebar towards it, but of course on Artillerists you want to save your spacebars as much as possible. Only use it when it really matters. Outside inside pattern. So I keep doing damage here. I just stand in there so that I don't get knocked into the air. I just tank the hit. Generally though, of course, you don't want to tank things in Akkan Gate 3 because it does seem to spawn more puddles around the map, which makes it difficult for you and especially the janitor to clean. Generally. So you have to be calculative when it comes to that. Like tanking too many things. Even if you know that you can tank them, it might end up spawning more puddles. At least that's the theory behind the spawn rate of the puddles around the map. That's the Hidirik pattern. I spacebar out of it. You can also spacebar towards it if you have DR and shielding. Planting turrets there. I waited for the nukes and then planted them after I saw he was doing that outside-inside pattern. I'm waiting for window. That's the deadliest thing in Akkan Gate 3 when it comes to playing Barrage Artillerists, because sometimes this axe spawns right on top of you and you have to immediately get out. If you don't have spacebar, there's a high chance that you die there if you don't get out in time. Huge damage window, 270 laser, but I already finished my barrage rotation, so I move out of it and spin alongside of him. Don't try to spacebar through that laser. It gives you a lot of gauge. And it hurts. Poop outside. Spacebar out of the poop because a lot of it was together. And luckily I get caught in one of the poop explosions. Moving out of the laser in the front. We have a very narrow spot to do damage there. I make use of it. Oh, I got caught. Strike. Okay, someone got CC'd there, so you move to do the next slice. Always a good pattern. Oh, that was unlucky. So you moved down to 6 o'clock, so we had to move to 12 o'clock while I was doing my barrage rotation. But this is always a good angle for awakening. Because he's pretty immobile while doing that, so you'll get most of the ticks off. You'll be able to hit most of your ticks. And then that frisbee pattern does hurt, but your barrage artillery can tank that. 270 laser again, so I go behind him and then watch the direction towards which he's turning. I was using flamethrower. I move alongside him while trying to build gauge. And then he did phase. You get a small damage window there, so I make use of it. I plant my W, and then I'm waiting on to use my E after the cinematic occurs. A Princess Maker talk, I'll do it later. I didn't do it yet. And then we finish the cinematic. I plant Q and then E, and my W damage and my W has also come back off cooldown. So I use W2. You don't need to move too early. You only need to move once he fixes his aggro there. Generally though, don't try to tank that. Just make sure you move out when you need. And the problem with like keep moving, especially if you're the aggro, is that he will point towards you. You want to fixate the aggro for your team so that they don't have to move too much. Now damage is done. Now I'm just planting nukes to take care of the minions on the platform. I'm building gauge back up. So now we're using the zero line Inanna tech. Wasted a lot of wheelchairs even though we cleared 1-3 in like 15 minutes. Ah. Yeah, I knew that people would need something like this. I'm going into barrage mode because I have destruction points on Q and E. I move out of it. Trying to build back gauge while using my destruction skills on it. This is a very easy destruction check as long as everyone's alive and you're using a Nana. I build back my gauge. And I always move towards him so I can start using skills right away. Just make sure you notice whether you have the worm on you. You can see a text forming on you if you are the one who's in charge of the worm. I knew that I wasn't the worm, so I sat down there. Because there's a small window where you can dish out damage, even if he might do a dangerous pattern on your side. You can still sit down immediately and dish out some skills. Here you have to get out. Like, I was like, whoa, what is this worm here? So, I think that's what caught my attention. Maybe I was greeting. I don't know what was going on in my head there. I knew I had to get out. And that would have been instant death before they fixed it. They only fixed it very recently. So now we have to be careful not to touch that worm. I plant my nukes. Try to get gauge. As much as I can. Yeah, we do get the destruction check here. So I have my full barrage mode ready. I should have sat down over there. Oversight. And I should have used my Adrofin. I guess I was too preoccupied by that worm was bugging me probably. Then we enter that worm. I saved 2 Adrofins for the first destruction check and then a second opportunity after that. Preferably after the second destruction happens. That's how you want to space out your Adrofins in gate 3. Try to use 2 in gate 3. And in gate 4 in this phase. And maybe use 1 during the first half. So during gate 3. And if we call this gate 4, you'd use 2 Adrofins in gate 4. So this is a neat trick you can do on Artillerists. If you're tanky enough, that is. It's very dangerous because the damage here is pretty intense. The damage you take. So yeah, if you're an Artillerist, you can kind of chill while sitting in your wheelchair, and you can wait for your skills to come back off cooldown like this. I already used W earlier, but I'm using it again because it came back off. Now this is the dangerous part. Like if you get yellow telegraphs, the puddles spawn on you, then you get CC'd. You can't drink potions. You keep taking damage. It might cause your death. So I really don't recommend doing this like close to on eye level. I can still use my E. He's going to do the front wave pattern. Stand up. Try to converge on the center. And yeah, you do get pushed backwards even if you're sitting on your wheelchair. It's kind of messed up. I enter the water. So yeah, I don't have to enter the worm there. I get out. Even while planting your nukes, you get pushed back like that. It's very annoying. I plant my awakening in his face. Just to get the damage off. Like, of course, it's best if you can do the awakening combo. But if you just see a awakening opening, maybe it's just better to make use of it like that. Even if you don't get full benefits of the gauge. I only got to use 1 Adrofin, sadly, because I missed that timing earlier on. And this party pushes way too fast. By the time I was back in that barrage, his HP was already 0. Yeah. 3 times MVP, 28%. Of course, it's much easier to get Cruel Fighter MVP if you have if you're stronger than the remainder of the DPSs. But still, it's very difficult to get used to playing Barrage Artillerists on Hard Akkan, so I hope this helped. I do have a second video